Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're jumping back into more Thor God of Thunder. So where with this one, we're going back to that moment when Gorr nearly broke Thor. And with that said, let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get your spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so picking right back up with modern day Thor, who we had seen was attacked by the Black Berserker while Thor was in search for the gods of Indegard. And with us coming back to the modern day, we find that this fight had went on for hours. But through the course of Thor fighting this Black Berserker, like we'd seen through the course of this, he'd come to the conclusion that this must be Gorr. But even still, for present day Thor, with the few encounters that have come to mind that cause him to believe that this is the work of Gorr, none of them showed that Gorr could create berserkers, so this leads Thor to believe that from the last time he had seen Gorr, from then till now, that Gorr's power has grown exponentially. It is from here where Thor swears to the gods of Indegard that they will be avenged and that he'll go after Gorr regardless of where Gorr's power is at now and regardless of wherever Gorr ran off to. And from here, the plan for Thor in order for him to find Gorr is for him to just follow the trail of dead gods. And Thor starts this journey by making his way to Omnipotence City, which was built 12 billion years ago by the Lords of the Dawn, by the first Elder Gods, as a place in the center of infinity where immortals from all corners of reality could come to, where eternal treaties could be signed and sacred covenants could be sworn, but also this is a place with an insane amount of information, with it having a number of halls that are set up more like a labyrinth with informations on gods stretching back over billions of years. But with Thor coming here and meeting the librarian and telling him that he's come back here to the halls of the all-knowing in order to seek the names of gods who have been missing for years, and it's here where the librarian takes Thor to the Hall of the Lost. And for Thor, with him seeing the countless number of books of gods who had just been gone or not active for years, initially he thinks it's something he has to take to the parliament so that he can warn the other pantheons, but the librarian lets him know that it's a regular thing that gods, they come and go, but usually pantheons just don't care what's happening with another pantheon. But with hearing this, Thor tells the librarian that this is different because his concern is about these gods that have been murdered, to where then the librarian lets him know that the Hall of Murder is down the other way, and there's a whole wing dedicated to Thor's family. But for Thor, with him seeing all these books of missing gods, he just figures that he'll start somewhere, see what he finds, and he starts with the Oaken King and Sequoia Queen, as well as the gods from the cosmic seasons who had been missing for 2,000 years only to find them slaughtered. And with his search, it goes from gods missing from 2,000 years to 1,200 years to 500 years, and time after time, Thor just finds more bodies and Black Berserkers. But with him finding all these bodies, Thor realizes that Gorr didn't have a pattern. He just pretty much singled these guys out, killing anything immortal that he could find. But also for Thor going down this list of the past 2,000 years to other gods who have been more recently missing, and this brings Thor to finding Falagar the Behemoth, who in this case is a god that he knew. With him seeing Falagar, he remembers the last time that he saw him, which was like 100 years ago with the two of them passing each other in the spaceways, but also with Thor seeing Falagar here. For Thor, this is like his next example of how powerful Gorr is, because Falagar had been champion of the Tournament of Immortals for 5 centuries straight. This guy wrestled black holes for fun. So with Thor seeing this, like the fact that Falagar got caught lacking, this lets Thor know that Gorr is out here serving Fade with no chaser, and he's serving it to the heavy hitters as well. And with this specific instance with Falagar, Thor approximates that Falagar had been laying here for at least 5 years. But also while Thor is here, one of these Black Berserkers, they come crawling out of Falagar, to where Thor kills this Berserker much like the others and removes his head, hoping that the God Butcher can feel every hit that he's serving to these Berserkers, while then crying out for the God Butcher to come kill him if he dares. But then it's from here where we jump back to the 9th century, just after young Thor's fight with Gorr, of which he barely made it out alive. And after that fight, Thor was out cold for 7 days. But since he landed not far from where he left his men, they'd made camp around him, tended to his wounds, and just waited for him to wake up. And the first thing Thor asks when he gets up is like, did he kill him? Did he kill the God Butcher? Only for his men to tell him that when they found him, they only found him alone, which from there led Thor to seek out this God Butcher and finish the job. But along the way of his search, he ran into the God of the Hunt, who Gorr has recently just wrecked. But Gorr had only left him alive here so that he could tell Thor that he's waiting for Thor in a cave along the lake, and for Thor to find it, he needs just follow the screams. But with the God of the Hunt, Hinkon, telling Thor where to find the God Butcher, he also tells Thor that he shouldn't go to that cave alone, and Thor more or less just tells him like, dude, you're in no position to give advice on combat. And of course from here, Thor goes to the cave by himself. And this is something that Gorr knew he would do, and if for nothing else, just out of pure arrogance. But this is exactly what Gorr wanted, to lure Thor in here by himself, and not just for the purpose of killing him, because the God Butcher lets Thor know that he intends for his death here to be a slow one. And it's in this moment for 9th century young Thor when he begins to experience what modern day Thor was talking about, when modern day Thor met his first black berserker, and it reminded him of the Cave of Horrors. Because while 9th century Thor was in here, rather than Gorr just killing him, he instead tortures Thor with the intention of killing him later. But first, Gorr tries to get every answer out of Thor that he can. And regardless of 9th century Thor talking tough in this moment, he's terrified. And that's something that we pick up from modern day Thor as he thinks back on this moment, rather than 9th century Thor admitting it or even showing it at the least. But instead with him talking tough and telling Gorr what he would do if Gorr let him out of the chains. And it's here where Gorr calls the spikes to come out of the chains, turning up the torture just another notch. And he also lets Thor know that he's tortured the god of torture, and he broke him. And even to the point to where the god of torture gave up his own children, telling Gorr where they were hiding. But really, for a moment, I just want to say one thing, because through the course of this, we get a number of examples of things that Gorr has done. And to this day, I still want a series, and it's not only just a mini-series, from Jason Aaron that follows Gorr through the events of God of Thunder and shows us a number of these iconic moments, with that series or mini-series just ending at Gorr's initial encounter with Thor. And for a second, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, because this arc as we have it, I'm cool with, but I'm also saying that if we get anything new, that I want it to be a story that goes back, rather than some of the continuations that we had that went forward. But either way, I digress. But while the two of them are here in this cave, the other reason why Gorr wants Thor's death to be slow is because he wants Thor to give him more information about this Asgard that he spoke of, as well as the location of all his friends and his family. And for 17 days, Thor endures this torture. And it's here in this moment where Thor has come to his limit, because Gorr lets him know up to this point he hasn't seen any other god who can endure as much as Thor has. And he asks Thor, like, do you think any other Asgardian would have went through all of this without offering to have you in their place? And at this point, Thor tells Gorr like he's not even sure anymore. And Gorr lets him know that all of this can end if Thor only shows him the way to Asgard. And Gorr's like, you want this to end, don't you? You want this to stop? And Thor's like, yes. And right then Gorr's just like, you know what? We'll make it easy. Is there a parent or a sibling that you hate? And Gorr tells Thor to tell him their names, and he promises that he'll kill them first. And it's right then when Thor's just like, almost as if he's getting ready to tell Gorr everything. But then it's here where Thor's men make their way into the cave, finding the God Butcher, and they attack him, knowing good and well that this fight may very well be their last. But when Thor's men go to attack Gorr, for a good while he just takes it, because while they're attacking him, he's pleading with them, telling these men that he doesn't want to hurt them, but instead that he's come to this world to liberate them, because neither Thor or any of the gods for that matter are worth their lives and their devotion. But then eventually Gorr's like, alright, fine, have it your way. And he gets to tearing these guys to pieces. And with this happening is here where Thor musters enough strength to break the ceiling where the chains are attached, only to see Gorr slaughtering his men. As Gorr asks them, do they finally see what he's meant about them wasting their lives and worshipping their god? Because where's their savior now? Where's Thor? And Gorr gets that answer quick, as Thor grabs an axe without saying a word and strikes Gorr without warning. But then it's from here where we jump forward to your modern day Thor, who's gotten help from Tony in order to relocate this cave in the modern day, which Thor hasn't been back to in about 1,000 years. And Tony of course helps him out by triangulating the location, given the information that Thor was able to provide. But even with Tony doing this for Thor, he lets Thor know, like, the look in his eyes, it's freaking him out. And he more or less tells Thor like, hey buddy, blink twice if you want me to call the Avengers. And it's here where Thor, unlike himself 1,000 years ago, he accepts this offer for help. But with doing so, he tells Tony to go to Olympus to warn the gods of Earth, because modern day Thor, he realizes that before, his silence had only gotten other gods killed. And on top of that, with him entering this cave, he sends out word to Freya, letting her know that Asgardia and everyone there is in danger, while also letting her know that she needs to call every Asgardian home and lock the gate behind them. But while Thor's here in this cave, he runs into Shadrach, the god of wine and waterfalls, who has been hiding in this cave in hopes that it's the last place that Gorr would come back to. And it's here where Shadrach tells Thor it's because of what Thor did to Gorr in this cave that this is the reason why gods are dying right now, that it's all because of Thor. And Shadrach knows this because how much he had heard Gorr talk about Thor. Because at the time when Gorr went to Shadrach's pantheon, he had released his black berserkers, killing all the other gods, while sparing Shadrach to make him watch. And to take it a step further, Gorr even cut off Shadrach's eyelids to keep him from closing his eyes, so he had to see everything. But with Shadrach witnessing so much, it also served as information that Thor would need. Because while Gorr was getting information out of these other gods, Shadrach had heard the mention of Kronix. And it's from here where Thor takes Shadrach to Omnipotent City so that Thor can speak to the librarian and get more information on Kronix. Because at this point, Thor has no clue of what exactly that is. But when Shadrach and Thor make their way here, right away they find the librarian severely injured, as well as a group of black berserkers burning a ton of these books in order to hide something. And right away when Thor sees this, he's like, it's Kronix. They're trying to hide the god Kronix. But the librarian lets Thor know that Kronix is not a person, it's not a god, but it's a hidden world. And he tells Thor that there's only one book that can tell him where to find it. And he points across the room telling Thor that that one book is over there, burning. But Thor gets to it just in time, just before it's completely burnt to a crisp, and he's able to read just what he needs to find out how to make his way to Kronix, the Palace of Infinity, so that after all these years he can finally meet Gorr again face to face. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below to where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.